Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your support of the Afghan Study Commission proposal I've drafted with the backing of a number of my colleagues who are sitting here today. I'm also looking forward to authorizing my Afghan Study Commission as part of the National Defense Authorization Act. I'm further pleased to hear our witnesses confirm their support for an independent commission because this is just too important to get wrong. If we set too narrow a scope, we will fail to understand the true causes of our failures, or worse, we will learn the wrong lessons. If we don't look at the role of all government agencies involved and only look at DoD, we will similarly miss important conclusions. If we simply settle for yet another report without empowering a truly nonpartisan, independent body to make forward-looking recommendations, then we won't have done our duty to prevent future generations from repeating past mistakes. And if we don't resource the commission appropriately, or if we rush the commission's work because we want to look like we're taking action, but we don't really want to commit to doing the work thoroughly, then we'll have wasted everyone's time. After listening to today's hearing, I'm even more convinced we need a nonpartisan, independent commission to examine the entire scope of the war in Afghanistan. General Mingus, thank you for expressing your support for an independent commission to study the entire span of the war in Afghanistan. Can you please elaborate on why existing lessons learned exercises are not sufficient, and what further lessons could be examined by an independent commission looking across government agencies? How would this benefit future strategic planners and policymakers?
Thank you, ma'am. I think, and you alluded to much of this, when you look at, and Chairman Milley shared some of these a couple of weeks ago, but just from the mission sets. We started off with a counterterrorism mission, which moved into a stability mission, which moved into a nation-building mission. We invaded Iraq 2 years into the operations in Afghanistan. We never dealt with the sanctuary in Pakistan adequately. Corruption has been discussed several times. The legitimacy, how we mirror image both the government and the Afghan National Security Forces. We didn't understand the culture as well as we should have. The will, that component of it as well. But when you take all those, and there's several that I'm omitting, that is much larger than just a DoD or interagency thing. It's got to be a whole of government approach, and so as many elements that we can look at this independently will always be good for the nation going forward.
Thank you. Dr. Kahl, thank you as well for your statement of support. Before you were confirmed, much of your recent work focused on analysis of American grand strategy post 9/11. So I know you've been thinking about many different agencies that shape our national security. Did the failures in Afghanistan result from the actions of the DoD alone, or did the actions of the Department of State, the intelligence community, and multiple Congresses and administrations also impact the eventual outcome in Afghanistan?
Well, I think it's important to have a scope and scale that matches the actual war. So it needs to look holistically at 20 years. It shouldn't just look at the DoD involvement, but the interagency involvement, what we were doing diplomatically, from an economic and development perspective, from an intelligence and counterterrorism perspective, to include those pieces that are outside of DoD's lane. But frankly, I think it also is an opportunity, Senator, to explore the mentality, the overall approach to foreign policy that we had after 9/11 and how that really manifested in 20 years in Afghanistan.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask you the same question I just asked General Mingus. How could this work of such a broad committee of an independent commission benefit future strategic planners and policymakers? You just mentioned that we understand the mentality of what happened post 9/11, and as we were making these decisions, how could the lessons learned from this type of a committee, of an independent commission, benefit future strategic planners and policymakers?
Well, I think it's crucial because it's really a major opportunity to take a holistic view. The Department of Defense will do various reviews with different timeframes, but inevitably we'll be looking through our soda straw. Now, it's a big soda straw, but it's a soda straw. State Department will do the same. The intelligence community will do the same. The NSC might even pull all those threads together, but at the end of the day, there's a wider context. And I really think the opportunity to make this bipartisan and to make it independent and to have the scope and scale be appropriate will have tremendous value.
Ma'am, very quickly. The other thing that I would add that needs to be a part of this, when you look at the vast nature of the NATO and coalition component of it, there has to be a partner and coalition aspect to that commission.
Important.
Very good point, General. I agree with you because we certainly expected our partners to do a little bit more, and they were not as able to help maintain Afghanistan as we had hoped. So thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for your testimony today. Bottom line, for 20 years, we prosecuted this war without a viable strategy. We failed to consider long-term costs and consequences, and if we fail to learn from our history in Afghanistan, we will be doomed to repeat it. I urge my colleagues to join me and pass my Afghanistan War Commission Act. We owe it to our constituents, we owe it to the veterans that served honorably and the families that lost loved ones, and we owe it to future generations of American service members. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Duckworth. Let me recognize Senator Scott, please.
Thank you, Chairman Peters.